let's turn now to slavery in the US and the first protest songs. And perhaps the term protest song is not quite adequate because these are really songs about resistance, not just protest. And this is a distinction that you might want to make in your essay. I think it'll be an interesting difference to observe. So this is from the same article. So some of the first widely known protest songs in the US came from slaves, mostly derived from hymns with themes of freedom or escape. So in the essay, I think you really want to be pointing at specific song titles, not just genres. So you can, for example, here mention Go Down Moses. This was indeed used by Harriet Tubman as a code song for operating the Underground Railroad. Um, and spirituals provide an opportunity to gather together, share feelings, lament, or be joyful. So again, we see individual emotions, but at the same time, music is something that it can be very social. If you think about the ways in which you engage with music, you probably listen to it alone on your earbuds, but you also probably listen to it with your friends at concerts, together, at home, in church, in religious places, at school. So it's important to think about that. And this is again from the same website. And this is quite a long explanation. So, yeah, we're not going to read all of it out loud, but come back to it and see whether you disagree or agree with what Amiri Baraka is saying. And he's a historian of blues music. So, two key sentences here, I think. So, the blues was a response of African abductees to the American enslavement, a cultural outpouring developed from work songs and spirituals, which represents a microcosm the entire range and nuance of the people's adaptation to a foreign land they were given no choice but to make into a home. And actually, I had a video on slavery on a transatlantic slave trade, which I think was the fifth video that I made for the John Locke essay competition, question number 1 on sustained economic growth. So if you have access to that, go back to that and watch it and think about the ways in which that links to what I've said here before. But in essence, for people who aren't familiar with the transatlantic slave trade, this was a violent, coercive movement. Actually, it was a forced migration. It was a forced migration, pretty much, and the enslavement of between 10 to 12 million Africans who were taken forcibly from their homes, primarily in West Africa, through the slave on ships, and then to the New World. So to Latin America and to the southern states in the US, where they were forced to work manually on slaves as slaves on plantations, mostly farming things like cotton and sugar. And this is an extremely violent process. I can't overstate how violent it is. I think the estimated death rate of people going across the ships was about 20%. So I want to give this context because it gives you an understanding of how these people had moved to the US and what kind of emotional state, what kind of family history they had that prompted them to make these kinds of songs. And I think the second question that the second quotation from here, which I think is really interesting, is the blues thus functioned as a repository of cultural engagement, its lyrical content evolving over time to reflect whatever social challenges African American communities were facing at the time. So it's something that has been written in response to slavery and in response to, the certain environment and the context in which African Americans are living in. But it also functions now as a source of how these communities felt about themselves, their own identity. And I think this is a crucial part about this kind of music, which we'll return to at the last slide.